We'll move on now because Donald Trump's campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, has resigned after just 2 months over allegations of his links to the former Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych. The Republican candidate seems to have adopted a new tone, even expressing regret for some of his previous comments. But will any of this boost his presidential prospects? And how are America's allies viewing this extraordinary race? Well, Jeff, do you think this new tone, does it really mean anything? The departure of his campaign chairman, just the latest casualty from his team.
The new tone where he expressed regret for something, we aren't quite sure what. He did it from a teleprompter. Whenever he reads anything off a teleprompter, it's a lie. There hasn't been one thing he's done from a teleprompter that has not been written by somebody else. And that's what has frustrated him. What he's been good at is saying all these things that get him on the news. Extraordinary claims. Obama is the founder of ISIS. Hillary is sick. Ted Cruz's father participated in JFK's assassination. The people who are in favor of guns should shoot Mrs. Clinton. The Russians should hack the emails. I mean, you know, for any other kind of person to say any of these things would disqualify. But this is, in fact, what has worked for him. It's gotten the nomination, and it's gotten him as far as he has gotten. When he tries to be the sober policy wonk, it doesn't work for him. And so I think he figures, what do I have to lose? It's what I want to do anyway. Because his poll numbers are so low now, it's hard to see how he can get back, you know, giving normal policy papers. He's down. I mean, Georgia and Arizona, which have voted for Republicans for the last 30 years, are in play. He's down below Romney's numbers in every battleground state. He's 12 points down in Pennsylvania. He's got a 70% disapproval rating. It's hard to see where he can fashion anything out of this. And so I think he figures, it's good for my brand anyway. Sarah Palin made money after she was incendiary. I might go to work with you know, start my own news network and, you know, see what happens.
Jeff, it is the greatest show on earth, but don't run down.
I'm sorry about that.
Don't run down the teleprompter. I got fired by the BBC because I couldn't read the teleprompter. Absolutely right.
Well, maybe you should run for president.
It is a skill, and Reagan was one of the greatest skilled operators of the teleprompter. He's good too. Trump is good at it. Yes, it may all be lies. And what is happening here? It is an extraordinary race. I mean, everyone forecast this guy was a hopeless character. He would not get the nomination. He now has had the nomination. Everyone now forecasts he's going to lose, as I do. What I'm interested in is he going to bring down the Republican Party with him? It is an extraordinary choice for the Republican Party to have made, and he could cost them dearly, both in the Senate and the House. And I'd be interested in your view of how serious this loss is going to be.
Well, let me just bring in Mina there, because how much concern is there that some of the views that he's espoused, building a wall, clamping down on all Muslims in the entire country, OK, his poll ratings now seem to be ebbing away, but how much concern is there about the lasting damage that these sort of views are going to leave?
Lasting damage will definitely be there. One, he's made it okay to say these things. And this idea that if you're not racist, then you're politically correct and being a liar. So this idea that political correctness is a bad thing and being polite to one another is a bad thing, that's going to be lasting. I think also he won't go away. I mean, if he loses the presidency, and I don't actually believe a lot of the polls, because I think a lot of people won't necessarily tell the pollster they may go and vote for Trump. So I think there's almost this complacency, and we saw what happened when we were complacent with polls here in the UK, when many people thought, oh, the polls say one thing, and of course the result is different. So I think when it comes to Trump, one is that he's not going to go into the wilderness, and he will remain, and the people that he's building and the network he's building around him, this idea that now he's getting quite close to Roger Ailes, who was just fired from Fox or left Fox because of sexual harassment case. So you have people like that now coalescing around him and actually almost forming what could be a new, not necessarily party, but political movement inside of the US.
And is there concern about how this is all going to play out in terms of the United States' future relations with the rest of the world?
Indeed. The United States is the most powerful country in the world, and therefore the presidential election of the United States is of concern and interest to the entire world. And the commander-in-chief of that country, you wonder how it is that a mainstream political party like the Republicans have thrown up a candidate like this man, Donald Trump. And therefore, it is indeed worrying because the whole world is concerned about these elections and hope that something untoward does not happen.
Keeping their fingers crossed for Hillary Clinton. I mean, is that
Well,
just
I
what
suppose
they're
there is a vast number of people in the world who would hope and pray that Hillary Clinton wins. But there are sections in the world who are very happy with Donald Trump, including, by the way, a section of Modi's soulmates in America.
Someone's got to defend Trump, and I mean, what he has done is to draw attention to a huge disaffected element of the American population who have valid grievances. And I think if you have to say defend his, he has drawn attention to this, and it is an important element. So irrespective of what happens in this election, I very much hope he gets beaten, he will have done a service in that extent. You cannot ignore these people. These people, just like the people, many of the people who voted for Brexit, they have lost out in globalization. They have lost out from via immigration. And frankly, the liberal consensus, which I'm afraid we all represent round here, we have ignored it too long.
But the Tea Party has been making this same point for some time, and the Republican Party writ large actually has been doing it. I agree that Trump has drawn special attention to it, but it's in order to almost wallow in it and to accentuate it rather than to solve it. Does he have a single idea that would actually solve the problems that he is drawing attention to? And, you know, boring Hillary Clinton actually is interested in equality and trying to fix infrastructure and do all those kinds of hard things that a government has to do. I mean, I'll take your point, but I still think he is reveling and accentuating in the problems, and he's gone past so many boundaries of almost decency is the right word, that a complicated country requires to keep itself together and to operate successfully. I think the danger that he'll come out of the election, as he's already saying, the election is illegitimate. My votes were stolen from me. The whole basis of the society is corrupt, which I think we're going to be hearing a lot more of as we get towards the end. His new director was working with Nigel Farage and the Brexiteers in order to make that argument that London is separate from you, your leaders are corrupt. We're going to be hearing a lot about that, and it's not the way you can run a complicated country.
And how great do you think are the concerns about that, about a sense of America withdrawing somewhat from international engagement when, for example, if you look at Syria 5 years on, a country in desperate, dire straits, and the Americans clearly very, very unwilling to get drawn into that?
Well, I mean, that's the Obama presidency, really. In some ways, it was almost that engaging with the world was through speeches and through saying we want to be nice, we want to be your friend, but not actually being engaged as many had hoped for the U.S., where most people around the world still see it as the main superpower. Of course, we've seen a resurgence of Russia and everything from Russia's possible role in the DNC hack and Russia's, of course, role in Syria now, where they're used Iranian air bases to bomb into Syria with hardly a peep out of the U.S. So I think, again, having a Trump presidency, there is a fear that there will be this isolationism and not holding this moral responsibility. Clinton will be a different type of president for sure.
That's the point, really. Do we have confidence in Donald Trump as to what his external policy, his foreign policy is going to be, what his Iraq policy is going to be, what his Syria policy is going to be? We don't even know what this man stands for in terms of his political philosophy, his economic thinking, his foreign affairs thoughts. We have no idea.
But he doesn't really. I don't say that to be crude. All the people who would write his position papers are not working for him. The Republican foreign policy establishment has eschewed him and written a letter saying they're not going to work for him and they're voting against him. He really doesn't have a bench, and he has not engaged in these affairs seriously. He casually says, well, I won't come to the defense of a NATO ally if it's invaded by Russia. Oh, how did he come up with that idea? Well, because we didn't bargain hard enough the last time. Let's get rid of the trade agreements. And you push him any deeper, it all evaporates.
No, there's no doubt he's damaging to the US and its reputation wherever, really. Even in Russia, I suspect, they regard him as a total lunatic. So that is absolutely clear.
He's our lunatic.
So but the trouble is, he is speaking to a trouble in America, to a real divisive base there, and that can't be ignored, whoever wins the presidency. Yes. And I think that argument in the same country, in this country too, for Brexit, that these people who voted this way, many of the people who voted this way, weren't anti-immigrant, they weren't racist, they were people who were very fed up with the political establishment and they wanted to have sound their voice. And that's the meaning of Trump. He is just a reality television star who should never have been anywhere near this, but he does speak for these people.
But I think a criticism of Trump should not be taken a criticism of those sorts of people. This idea that Trump is wedding himself for those that feel disenfranchised or have not benefited from globalization. Because actually, look, what does he stand for? He actually bankrupted himself 4 times and is still this multimillionaire. So it's this false discourse that he represents the underprivileged, because he actually doesn't.
I think the main concern for genuine Republicans is how much damage he's going to do to the Republican Party. The election of senators and representatives is the issue for them, because his unpopularity could take some of them down.
And do you think that that is a real danger, and that sentiment, that sense that there is a body of opinion within the United States that actually supports those views, is that going to bind the hands of whoever emerges as the next president?
Well, first, the Republicans. I mean, the polling is bad. Of course, we have 3 more months to go. We could have bimbo eruptions. We can have revelations about corruption in the Clinton Foundation. We can have lots of other things. So, I mean, who knows? But right now, the money of big Republican donors, they're trying to get this, shore up the Senate. It does look like the Senate may go Democratic. It seems quite unlikely that the House will go Democratic, but we don't know. Of course, I mean, what happens after the election? I think Obama came in thinking, okay, I'm coming in as a kind of consensus candidate. I want to build bridges. Everybody, I'll be nice. People will be nice with me. Well, immediately the Republicans said, we're going to make him a one-term president. We're going to delegitimize him. Trump himself, leader of the birther movement, saying he was not born in the United States. Hillary Clinton, it's going to be very hard to row back from calling her a liar, a crook, a murderer, as she has been. And I don't know if you get this wonderful prize of being president of the United States, then trying to make something of what's left, it is going to be very complicated and difficult.
Okay. And there we have to leave it. Thank you very much indeed. That's it for Dateline London for this week. You can comment on the programme on Twitter with the hashtag BBC Dateline and also engage with our guests. We're back next week at the same time. Don't miss Dateline London. Goodbye.